Добрый день, дорогие друзья.
Good day, dear friends. Today is Sunday, and our Sunday webinar begins. This time we are in our divided studio. It's a new state with Dr. Michael Laitman,
Hello, everyone.
Alexander Kozlov, and myself, Boris Bultsakovsky. We greet you here, and we want to talk about health, human health, people's health. Sasha? Hello, everyone. Yes, I wanted to add that it's not just about health, but considering the fact that the whole world is focused on one topic, the coronavirus, how we tackle it, how we overcome it, what happens in so doing with the world and humanity. We had a lot of questions that came in from friends, and then we also wanted to talk about it for the public that normally doesn't get to hear it.
All right, so this is the topic of health, and it's really about the disbalance in our system. The entire system is called Adam because it's built according to the form and similarity to a human. What does it mean, a human being? On the animate, vegetative, still levels and the human level, there are systems that are completely interdependent and integral and self-fulfilling and completely whole, and are made for people to use them correctly, to perfect them through their usage, correct usage, in similarity of form to the Creator, and only then, through all of these systems, he will begin to feel this humongous upper world that includes within it everything. So today we'll talk about the system. As I said, the system is integral. In our world, we see this in still vegetative and animate levels of nature. In the human level, we don't notice it because we are on that level. But let's say the still level of nature, we can imagine how we're causing this balance by creating gases and warming the atmosphere and polluting the rivers, blocking the rivers, blocking certain natural processes. So, and this results in unpleasant consequences because nature was created specifically in this harmonious way so that we would be able to be a part of it. But when a person begins to intervene in nature with its dirty feet and arms, it only harms it. It constantly breaks it and tries to adjust it and subvert it under its egoism and thinks that this is the correct way to act with nature, not realizing that this is a whole organism of nature. The human nature does not really participate in this entire system, but the vegetative and animate levels are interconnected in this system of nature and participate in this common integral interaction with one another. But a human being is built in such a way so that he would gradually, through his development, would be able to merge with this nature as an integral part, but an individual way, studying it and completing it with his participation. But this does not occur because we are a bunch of egos, and from the very beginning we are built against the still vegetative and animate levels of nature, and we, with our human egoism, which is above these three levels of nature, are we don't match these levels of nature and harm it, which is why throughout thousands of years a person does with nature what he wishes, and nature, as a judge, a stern judge, punishes us, but not quite punishes us, but compensates our rough and coarse distortions that we bring to it. which is why to talk about health, we can only from the point of view of us correctly seeing this entire organism, the still vegetative, animate, and human, the entire nature, understanding how this organism in harmony can coexist with all of its parts and compensate and complete all of its levels, and only then maintaining health, meaning ascending yourself to greater and greater attainments and combinations with this integral nature. We can continue discussing this topic. Of course, we understand that in our times, these things are very common. There's a Green Party, there are people that fight against us digging for oil. There are parties that are against us digging for resources, basically. And we are doing quite horrible things with our nature. But the more important thing is that we're not destroying nature and all kinds of plant life and destroying animals, building nuclear power stations and create all kinds of explosions underground and experiments and all sorts. But the more important thing is that we distort nature of the human being himself, because a human being is the summit of nature, a crown to it. So we receive as a result a coronavirus, because we don't care about this crown, which is nature, which is a human being that needs to correct and bring nature to balance. So we will hope that thanks to our own efforts, particularly our efforts, we will be able to do this. You see, Kabbalists that have received this method of integral unification, method of integral development and the building of nature, they didn't receive it for no reason. As we see, medical professionals in our society, they fight for the health of people through the methods that they know. But we, our Kabbalists, we need to do the same. We need to know, or try to be able to bring, in a similar way that medical professionals do, but not in relation to the animalistic part and the human being, but in relation to our society that includes the still vegetative and animate levels, to bring the entire universe, entire world to a correct, proper balance, and that will be considered its healthy state. This is our mission, which is why we are in the front lines of this battle against these distortions and that human beings do in nature, and which is why I'm hoping that we will be able to master this method and will use it correctly. As a result, will come to complete balance of all levels in nature, still vegetative, animate, and human levels, and the entire nature will be revealed for us as one whole organism, and we will get contentment from this integrality, from this complete interdependence, and as a result, a healthy organism. And we won't simply just be barely making it as some beings, but we will be very healthy participants in all of nature, in all of its worlds. And I'm hoping that this will be shown to us through becoming well and healthy from coronavirus. This should be our goal. Whether we'll be able to fulfill this goal or not is not up to us. We're trying, just as doctors that see before them a patient, they don't take into account that he's hopeless. They try with all their strength to make him well. And this is the same thing that we must do. I would say this is an introduction. If there are some questions in relation to this, I'm ready to answer them. Please go ahead.
Before we get to the questions, we want to read an excerpt of Balsalam that mirrors what you just said. We must not ponder the state of the rest of the beings in the world besides man, since man is the center of creation. All other creatures do not have any value in themselves, but to the extent that they help man achieve his wholeness. Hence, they rise and fall with him without any consideration of themselves. Maybe you can comment on that? What is the purpose of man?
Yes. Not any particular part of creation, not even an individual person, is considered, but only as a participant in this whole global integral picture that he can harm and distort and then evoke an ill and unwell state in this entire system, and only person as well can bring balance to the system, and only then he will be considered as a beneficiary.
We have questions, and again, all the groups that are watching us now, and individuals, please pose your questions as normal. Question from Krasnoyarsk: What is the practical value of bringing all nature into balance if I can't influence even myself, much less all humanity?
No, you need to learn how to influence yourself. How to invoke the correct influence of the upper right, in other words, positive forces of nature upon yourself, and then you can bring nature to such a state where you can compensate all negative states of nature. One person can compensate for all of these states of nature. People can do this, and you as well, and anyone can do this actually. So you shouldn't try to talk about the fact that maybe I can't do it. Each one of us can. You can say, no, there are billions of people in the world, how can I affect anything? And even if I will try, then this will be a billionth part from the rest. It's pointless for me to do this, but that's not correct. One person is capable to bring the entire humanity to a state of balance. We will study this and we'll talk about this, but that's how it is. There are many things written on this in Kabbalah. Every person has an opportunity to bring humanity to the state of complete balance, and he needs to act in this way.
To confirm your words, I want to read another excerpt from Salam: love God and love of man. Thus, each and every correction that an individual performs affects the whole world, develops it, and leads it to the law of love and bestowal, till the whole earth is full of knowledge. And every violation committed by one person also affects the whole world and causes forces that compel the world to correct. These forces are felt by us as suffering.
Yes, in this way, it turns out that each person, a person with one action, can either harm the world or correct the world, which is why we should not disregard the positive input that each one of us can bring into this balance of the world. And when we are in this special state current state, when we have completely taken out of balance this entire global system, when it begins to excrete out of itself these viruses, out of its disbalanced state, it can no longer compensate for its deficiencies only with excretion of these harmful microsystems, these viruses. We need to understand that we won't have any other options but to take on this responsibility to bring the system to balance. I'm sorry that I'm speaking in this way. I have an issue with my teeth today. My gums are hurting a lot, which is why I'm speaking in this way. And so I look and talk this way, but there's nothing I can do. You'll have to just bear with me today. I'm sorry. I saw a question there somewhere. Kharkov.
Здравствуйте, Рав. Скажите, пожалуйста.
Hello, Rav. Please tell us.
Не является для нас, вот всех, кто занимается
For those of us who study Kabbalah, the whole world, including Bnei Baruch, is this a new degree for us? Are we given an opportunity to consciously pray for the world, for the unity of the world? What do you think? Is this a new degree for us?
We're given an opportunity to pray, to ask the entire system, in other words, with our desire. There's no one that we can appeal to. We think that if we'll appeal to the Creator, the Father, and everything will be fine. That's not how it works. There are no individuals that appeal. It only seems to a person that he appeals towards some sort of an individual, some sort of a persona. We need to participate with all of our microsystems and all of us together. When we plug in to this system, this nature, and want to be in balance with it, our positive connection with it will bring this entire system into balance. That is what's called a prayer. It's our influence upon the system. And we need to pray in such a way that, and for everyone else, because today in our world, as a result of the disruption of this balance, we are quite interdependent, and there are people that are influenced by this more, and there are people that are influenced by this less. Still, we need to help one another. This obstacle is a common obstacle. The system is a common system, and we are in it together, which is why let's recognize how much we influence one another, how much we depend on one another. This system is beginning to teach us, and it's teaching us in quite a serious, stern way, how small of an organism, but a unified organism we are upon this little ball called planet Earth. And we need to seriously think about this and care for it.
Mark VG.
Ага, да, добрый день. Раф, два вопроса.
Yes, hello, good day. Rav, two questions, if I may.
Почему? Меня не слышно?
Can you hear me?
Спасибо.
Yes, thank you.
Когда мы просим...
First question, when we ask for the health of others, do we get something, or do we lose something, or do we get the strength to keep asking?
How can I lose if I ask for the health of another, if I'm with that person in the same system, if we are all together interconnected in the system and through the system? If someone within the system has gotten ill, then they signal to everyone else that the system is ill, except within that person it is expressed as an element, sensitive element, if we try to compensate for his problems that as if it's his problem, it's our common problem, but it's expressed within that person, because not a single person is responsible for themselves or acts in a bad way because they're bad themselves. It's simply expressed as a consequence of the harming of this integral interconnection between people. Which is why when we pray, what does it mean to pray? We ask. And what does it mean to ask? We connect between one another and try to appeal to this upper force in order for it to put into balance all of these negative qualities and phenomena that occur as if within one particular person. But it's not that person's problem, it's our common problem, which is why we have the right to ask for him, and in this way we compensate nature and receive a wonderful answer. Let's try this and you'll see how it turns out. This virus, if we would want all together and not pretend that we have nothing to do with what is happening in Italy or Spain, because in Russia everything's fine, this type of an attitude, it will only make it worse. Which is why we need to think how we can react to this state. This would be a terrible response if that's how we would relate to one another, especially now when this integrality is revealed between us. More questions? Makviji, go ahead.
Do we need to ask for the health of other people or for the correction of the system? And how do we do it the right way so as to not order the Creator what to do, to command him?
That is correct. We need to ask the Creator for Him to correctly unite us, which show us how to unite correctly. That's the only thing we can ask for, nothing else that we need. And I would also add that we desire to be correctly unified, so that the connection between us would be such so that it would reveal the Creator within us in order for us to bring Him contentment. And only then our appeal to Him will be correct.
Вопросы. Владислав из Омска задает вопрос.
Questions from Omsk. If I am an integral part of humanity and I cannot break this bond, but the humanity is sick, then no matter what I do, I'm going to be sick as part of the whole.
Yes, that's what it says. Great Kabbalists that out of their existence in this human system of humanity, who were hoping to correct the system, they also suffered with the system. Of course, they suffered even more than regular people. Baal Salam writes about this at the end of the book, the preface to the Zohar. Maybe we'll go on.
One more question, if we may, from the internet, from Tobolsk. If the Creator gave us all a virus, then what is the point of asking Him to take the same virus away or to cure it? Isn't that a direct contradiction with the Creator's governance of our world?
No. As a rule, this is the Creator has purposely created the evil. And that's what it says. I created the egoism and I brought in the upper light to correct it. And that's in order for us, on the background of this revelation of evil and the revelation of the system of correction, to be like the Creator. So we cannot refuse this mission, or we will become little bugs in this world.
Next excerpt from Rabash's article 133. All the illnesses that I had placed on Egypt I will not place on you, for I, the Lord, am your healer. Exodus 15:26. Our sages ask, if I do not place the illness, what is the need for a healer? We should interpret that since I am the healer, why should I place on you an illness if I must heal the illness? What do I gain by placing an illness? It must be as a punishment. And if I must heal the illness, what kind of punishment is it? It is as though I work for nothing. For this reason, I will not place illness upon you, and what you think is illness, you are wrong about it. Rather, all the states you feel, if you attribute them to me, all are corrections by which you will approach me in dvikut, adhesion.
Yep. Everything that occurs in the world, including this virus, is so that we would become familiar with the system, because we won't be able to work with it correctly if we won't see these common and opposite actions, which is why it seems to us that there are these illnesses, all kinds of states that are uncorrectable, and that's only in order for us to teach us so that we would correctly be able to interpret the Creator. Everything needs to be built upon knowledge of good and evil, the plus and the minus. Otherwise, we cannot understand what's happening with us and in this common system. So why are we talking about this today? We are at the start of a very strong influence from above. A certain revelation of disbalance between us. There's this huge nature, humanity as its summit, and humanity through its childish, unreasonable behavior takes the system out of balance, and then a certain coronavirus appears. It doesn't matter how it's called, something appears particularly harmful, and we don't know what to do with it. And it's so expressed in such a global way that in our time, there hasn't been such a situation in our modern world. We haven't been so insignificant, so struck down from our huge pedestal of importance when we thought to be the highest in nature. And what can we do today? Just hide in our little holes like little dogs or rabbits. What can we do now? What's happening? Look at what's happening with us. Don't come close to one another. Don't sit next to one another. You can only be within 2 meters of one another, not closer than 2 meters. Don't cough. Don't blow your nose. Can you imagine what nature has shown us? That we are insignificant little bugs. Try to throw away this pride and this self-importance, and you will see what kind of system you're in and what you need to do in order to bring it into a good, normal state. Stop trying to break it. Why is each one of you constantly pulling and take stuff for themselves? The system will not break. Nothing will happen with the system, but you will begin to feel that you are in a harmful, a horrible system. You are ruining it. Nature does not ruin itself. In fact, it can recover quite quickly. But you will be in such a state when you'll see that nature is vomiting you out. Look at what's happening around Chernobyl when people have brought such a blow to nature there. Today, it's blooming around Chernobyl. There are animals that are appearing there that haven't existed for hundreds of years. Because only one most destructive animal has disappeared, the human being. But everything else is blooming, and so we need to think about what we need to do in order not to be so harmful. We have Italy. Italy, go ahead.
Italy.
Italy.
No.
Go ahead, Italy.
Buonasera Rav, mi sente? Mi sentite? Ok. Dear Rav, we can consider... Sto parlando, mi senti?
Yes, we hear you.
That authentic love...
Там есть кто-то, кто переводит или что-то?
Is there anyone there translating?
Can consider
Speak English, please.
without any reward.
Repeat the question, please.
I repeat question.
I speak in English, Rav, but I don't know. Okay. Allora, dear Rav,
Speak English.
dear Rav,
Yes.
we can consider
האם אנחנו יכולים לשקול?
No.
La sto facendo, Paolo, non passa. Che l'autentico amore, with the authentic love,
Да. Топ.
Плохо слышно.
Да, не то, что плохо слышно, она все-таки говорит на итальянском. Топ.
No, she's speaking Italian. It's not just a sound issue. Let's move on. Sasha, what are we going to read next?
We have lots of questions from participants of this webinar, even prior to the preparation, and we're waiting for questions live. And one question is, humanity has been in emergency situations before. Why is the current situation unique?
What do you think makes the situation unique? It is unique in that humanity has reached a state when we are fully interdependent on one another all over the globe. This virus that is developing, raging, you can hear about it everywhere, in all the countries. Every person hears about it, every person feels that this will definitely impact him, because we all live in one integral whole system and we depend wholly on its well-being. So it doesn't matter whether you live in a jungle or in a desert or in Manhattan or in Moscow. It doesn't matter. You will still be impacted by it. That's first of all. Second of all, it will absolutely reach you as well. It will. You may say, how can it reach me? I live on a deserted island, or an island that no one ever comes to visit. So how can it get there? That's not how it works, friends. They appear, these viruses, they appear out of nothing, these harmful frequencies, particles. They appear out of nothing, essentially out of empty space. They appear from particles, from atoms, from molecules of normal organisms, because these organisms exist in nature, in the incorrect bond of the system. And nature generates them as these viruses. Do you understand? These are biological organisms. They must be in balance, in the right connection with one another. But because all across the globe we create this terrible connection between good and evil, reception and the soul, what happens is that nature itself creates them, invents them, it doesn't matter where, in this terrible form. And you will discover these viruses, coronaviruses, in places where they simply cannot exist. And on the contrary, if you start improving nature, like with Chernobyl, suddenly you're going to find such kinds of nature, flora and fauna, that hadn't existed in 100 or 200 years, and suddenly they will appear as if out of nothing. Do you understand? So let's understand. We create this. More questions, Sasha?
Question from northeast of US.
Здравствуйте, дорогой Раф.
Hello, dear Rav. Just to continue what you said, that this virus will penetrate anywhere possible. Just a few weeks ago, Americans have watched with disdain how this virus has developed in Europe and Italy. And today there's complete panic in the United States. Not only are people not allowed to fly and travel, but they're not doing it themselves because of fear. So this is the question. The inability to heal from this virus, and the solution is to isolate from this virus, right? So this is the question. How and where must we unite as a humanity in order to raise above this isolation?
First of all, this needs to be clear to everyone everywhere. You understand? Including in your neck of the woods, right? You're in Massachusetts, yes? So, I understand Americans. They thought that it wouldn't reach them. They have such a system going. It's not Europe where everything is regulated, or never mind Russia or the Middle East, Arabic countries. America is the most progressive country of freedom of speech, expression. How could it be? In terms of freedom, they are in the vanguard of the whole planet. So a virus that is a violation of balance of human society, it shouldn't manifest there. The thing is, though, first of all, you cannot have one part of humanity be healthy where the other parts are not. When they're sick, you realize that, you know that as a doctor yourself. That's first. Second, the fact that it seems to us that you have more freedom in America, more balance, that's all an illusion. We are all impacted, we're all sick, into different varying degrees, but nonetheless, we're all sick with this illness. When with our negative influence, we bring the whole system out of balance. I cannot imagine what else can be done here other than to take the wisdom of Kabbalah and try to scrupulously, thoroughly execute what Bar Salam and Rabash write about in their articles about the correct connection in the group and society and so forth. At least to study these articles and to feel how misaligned we are with them. And even these sensations when we feel that we must do something, even if we can't do it, but these differences between what must be and versus what is, this recognition of evil, that will influence us and it will make our human society healthier. Otherwise, of course, we're all going to suffer greatly. The virus is going to spread all over the world. It will infiltrate every hole. It will reach even the most distant, remote villages. It will mutate into all sorts of things. And we still have a lot of time ahead of us to come to grips with our behavior and to improve. If we can change our behavior, we can very quickly get rid of this virus. But if we don't, the virus is going to keep raging for as long as it needs to force us to change our behavior to one another, and rejecting superfluous, redundant groups and activities. It will force us to do it. Brute force it, instead of us doing it on our own volition. Either way, after the virus, the world is not going to be the same as before. So, in that sense, long live the virus.
Киев. Да где-то там мой лохматенький дорогой ученик.
Where is my shaggy, beloved student? Oh, he's not there?
Hello, Ralph. Instead of the shaggy student, this question about how should the world become, or what form should the world take after the virus, ideally?
It should be very simple. People must love each other. That's it. What else is there? Now, we don't know what love is. I love what brings me pleasure. That's what we call love. Love is self-love. But here, we need to make it so people work together to be in the correct bond with one another. We all constitute one system, and we must think about this one system, about keeping it in balance, to keep it from getting knocked off balance. So we shouldn't pay attention to externalities like, oh, I don't like people like you, or you don't like people like me. Above all of these problems, we must rise in the sensation of our mutual integral interdependency. Do you understand? The mother cannot look at a child and dislike something about his eyes or his nose. She loves him the way he is. We must reach the same state of love. Do you agree? You don't answer, huh? Now let's move on. Who else do we have? Krasnoyarsk. Go ahead.
Hello. If I try to give love and goodness to everyone around me, to my family, to everyone here at work, can I somehow stabilize myself from the virus, make myself safe?
Generally, yes. However, I don't think it should be so apparent to your eyes. But generally speaking, yes. The best medicine is correct, friendly relationship support. What we must give to nature and haven't been giving thus far. And try to do the opposite. Try to steal, to dominate and humiliate others. If we are elements of the integral system and fully depend on each other, then start behaving that way. Try to understand what is this system, this analog system, this integral system, where everything is dependent on everything else. Rostov-на-Дону.
Hello. You said that through our negative actions, we take the system out of balance. Negative actions, what are those actions?
Not love, down to hatred. The lack of desire to complement one another, to care for each other. Any violation of balance in the system, when all the elements are dependent on each other, that is what we call evil.
That's
it. We don't have any more questions. I can't see from here who else is there.
Volga Virtual Group.
Добрый вечер, Раф.
Скажите,
пожалуйста, вопрос от...
Good evening, Rav. We have a question from my friend. Can we talk about and reference the fact that through unity we can escape this virus?
I didn't fully get that. Please repeat the question, Nelly.
Вопрос, можно ли распространять...
Question. Can we disseminate the fact and refer to the fact that through our unity we will be able to push these viruses away?
Of course, that is absolutely the case. That's not a problem. I think that you can even talk to experts who will confirm that these are the principles that work. They are effective. I'll tell you, talk to people who deal with closed systems, cybernetic systems, social systems. They'll tell you the same thing. It's not even about Kabbalah. These are just knowledge about the interconnectedness, interdependence, integral, whole, perfect system. When it's knocked off balance, there are several levels of disbalance and how to bring the system back to a state of balance and so forth. This is studied. These are cybernetic systems. There is nothing complicated about this. I studied it back in the university 50 years ago. This is all known. You can even go online and there are popular explanations, so to speak, about what an integral system is, what is an interconnected system. There are varying degrees of freedom and balance. This is where what was used to begin developing all sorts of modern systems.
Давай.
Да, тут
We have a few questions from the internet.
в переводе на YouTube с Южной Флориды. Цифры растут, школы закрываются.
Question from South Florida.
Продолжают
The numbers of ill grow, the schools are closing. How can we remain in a state of bestowal between the friends?
Start working with the friends only. In your regular life, do the same thing that everyone else is doing. Don't stand out. Stock up on food, spend more time with family, with kids, and so forth. But most importantly, be in constant good connection with your friends and try to always think and speak about how this mutual help will bring all humanity to balance. We stand on the threshold of a completely new society that the Kabbalists wrote about. Take Baal Salam, read what he says, what he writes in his articles. You will see. I wrote this in my first several books as well. You can leaf through these books and you will see. I wrote these books 30 years ago, yes, but even 40 years ago. You will see that all these things were mentioned. But here, today, we are witnessing nature rebelling. Nature no longer wants to deal with such wicked mankind. Nature must bring mankind to balance with itself, and mankind is resisting. Now, to that extent, nature must correct him with this negative feedback. And that is what we're feeling right now. All of these viruses, they are meant to bring us back to a certain state of balance. If we understand this, then we will very easily correct ourselves and the system of our society in which we exist all around the world, all of us together, and we will receive a completely new, different humanity. And I hope that we're going to discover this in the shortest possible future time. Maybe even as early as a year from now, a year and a half. I think that it's not likely to happen earlier than that, but if we desire, and we're going to explain using all of the means at our disposal what must be and how humanity needs to behave as the right reaction to the coronavirus, then I think it's possible to make this happen over this time period, but it's not going to happen before the coronavirus spreads throughout the whole world and everyone becomes convinced of how it is in full control over us, and people realize that it is us who have instigated it, that have caused it with our negative connections and our negative attitudes towards each other and to nature, and how we must return to a good state of connection with nature and each other, and only then the virus will leave. We must go through all of these stages: the recognition of evil, the correction of evil, and then instead of the evil, the manifestation of good. I very much hope that very quickly we're going to bear witness to all this. All of this is written in our primary sources, so let us just quickly disseminate them using any means, using any reason. Don't write that it's Kabbalah, that it's coming from Israel. That's not very popular right now. But just write about the integrality of the world, the integral nature of the world. Learn from the materials that we're publishing. Today I had a big gathering with our writers. There were maybe 30 of them. Just as I was speaking to them, just as we're speaking now. So address them and join them and start writing. Start writing. Each one may be in his own so small circle, Twitter, YouTube, blog, and so forth. Write. By doing this, you are adding your own participation, which is necessary, and it's very powerful because you're speaking of an integral cure for humanity. And I hope that you're hearing me now. What do we have left now, Sasha?
A good question from Minsk. The solution recommended by you through common love and bestowal, it's a wonderful concept. But as a practical outcome of this, what should those that study Kabbalah and those that don't study Kabbalah, what should they do?
There is no difference whether a person studies Kabbalah or doesn't study. We're all in one system. So what we need to do is to make the system function correctly. Then we're going to have everything. We're going to have food, clothing, services, all that we need in its normal state and form. And we're going to feel each other and relate to each other correctly. And then we're also going to see the future world in addition to this world. Do you understand? We're going to be able to see worlds, see just how nature is eternal and perfect, and our incarnation in nature. So the truth is, we have tremendous opportunities before us in nature, and it doesn't depend on Kabbalah. Kabbalah is simply the science that tells us of how our nature is eternal and perfect and integral. That is Kabbalah. The science of Kabbalah. So, of course, you shouldn't talk about it yet until that people are convinced that Kabbalah is not religion or some sort of mysticism, dark art, or all that people think of Kabbalah. So don't mention Kabbalah. Talk about the integral nature of nature, the integrality of nature. That's it. And then you will succeed. What else do we have, Sasha? Krasnoyarsk?
How would you explain people from the following category? Those that follow certain conspiratorial theories that this isn't a virus that came from nature but came from certain laboratories, a bioweapon essentially, that have certain specific goals in politics and in economics. How can these people be explained through integrality, through unity, through explained about nature, that all of us need to change in this global system?
I typically don't address people like that. I understand them. I understand where these thoughts come from, and I don't judge them. This stems from the depths of nature. That's why these thoughts about America, especially about Jews, about Israel, about the Freemasons and so forth, all of these conspiracy theories, it all exists within human nature, and it stems from the fact that these people who call themselves Israel, meaning directed straight at the Creator, these people have the understanding of the integral nature of the world, and they always knew about it, talked about it, developed this method. That is Kabbalah. But humanity did not want to accept it, because it compelled them to, obligated them to rise above their ego, above their nature. That's why humanity was split into two parts. Those who aspired to the integrality of the world and revealing the good and perfect state of nature and society, and everyone else who simply want to listen to their ego and to follow its commands. I don't think that we need to explain it to them just yet. You see what the newspapers are writing and what people are still thinking. They're still very, very confused. So you don't need to explain. Let them give them time. Let us still talk about the integrality of the world, about the special closed system that it constitutes, and we'll be able to influence them using the good, positive force of nature, and it will impact them, influence them. But you shouldn't try to convince them. You're not going to convince anyone. So let us start writing articles about how the world is integral and how we need to bring the world to this state as well. That is our objective for next week. And the following week, we're going to go even further. We have many, many more steps that we need to take. So I wish you luck for the virus to bypass you through the air and not fall onto anyone and attach itself to you. Be healthy, be well, talk to each other, write to each other, call each other. Let's all think about the fact that we want to educate the world, enlighten the world, and thereby elevate the whole world to its spiritual state. Good luck to all of you. I hug you. Till we meet again.